Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Orvelina Martinez, and today I'm presenting you with a subject that many of you might know or might have heard about it in the past. Today we're going to talk about the immigrants, what was then and what is now. I want to talk about a little bit of our American literature course. Our American literature course holds a lot of literature that is fiction and nonfiction. It has a lot of history, a lot of American history. A lot of the writers were immigrated from all around the world. A lot of history regarding the Native Americans and racism that existed back in the 1800s. Europeans taking what was not theirs, and unfortunately, a lot of hope was lost. A little bit of history on the Native Americans. In our class textbook stories, a lot of them were written in Native American point of view, or even a white man point of view. John Heckwelder wrote about the beginning relationship between the Native Americans and whites when they first immigrated to America, from history, manners, and customs. Another important figure is Tecumseh, who was a Native American who fought to win back their territory. He strived for independence and wanted the best for his people. A lot of natives just really wanted to keep peace and their land. Whites did not want them near their people. A lot of authors in American literature encountered racism and sexism. For example, Phyllis Wheatley was a slave owned by a white family. She was a Christian, she was a woman, but she did gain George Washington's attention. Unfortunately, she did die alone. Another important figure is Anne Bradstreet. She was a poet. She was recognized after her death. She wrote a lot of poems, and she came from a wealthy family. Of course, she was a woman, and she encountered sexism during her time of writing literature. A lot of men told her what she was not to waste her time because she was a woman. She needed to concentrate on taking care of her home. Back to the Native Americans. A lot of Native Americans were recognized within their tribe. Unfortunately, a lot of them were discriminated, thought they were poor, just because they had different customs and dressed differently, and their skin tone color was different. Unfortunately, the ones that survived from a lot of the murders that were committed was left with nothing. Long ago, ignorance was at its highest. People were selfish and greedy. What excuse do we have now? Racism has always been around, especially during the slave era, during the Native American era. A lot of Native Americans were killed because the white men wanted their land. Whites were the immigrants back then. They came to this place that they discovered, but people were already living here. In other words, immigrants make up what this country is. Everyone living here is an American. No matter what skin tone color you have, your neighbor might be from a different country. Unfortunately, a lot of the media that we watch is biased, and it all comes down to your socioeconomic status, skin tone color, and sex. You may ask, what's the difference between then and now? Well, now we're more modernized. We have the media, we watch TV, we watch the news all the time. We have freedom of speech. And people are actually proud of their ancestors. They like to inform other people of where they came from and how they came. And thankfully, we have a lot of advocates that strive for the people who can't defend themselves. Racism is visible. Discriminating and stating your prejudice sets you apart from many people. You're stereotyping people, and staying ignorant is probably not the best solution. You have to accept that this type of racism still exists. I myself was a child from immigrants. I did experience racism growing up. I couldn't talk to my parents about this because they were truly never home. They always worked really hard to try to give us everything and more. Thankfully, I've made it to where it hasn't affected me long term. Immigration is full of foreign people that have come to a country where they weren't originally from. A lot of the major literature figures are immigrants. They came to this country to pursue their works because in their place of country of origin, Puritanism was, a big thing, and a lot of the people did not have freedom of speech there or freedom of writing whatever you wanted. This country has always been opportunity, has always led opportunities to people. It continues to be that way in many ways, even though ignorance is still in existence. My family, my mother and father came here back in the 80s to give their children a better life. They were field workers, but yet they worked their hardest and worked from sun up to sundown. Eventually, they would have a child here, and 2 of their children were in Mexico, and that child that was born here was myself. I know when you think of slavery, you think of, beating, torturing people, making them work and not paying them. That's just what slavery is. But there's modern slavery in a way. A lot of people who are illegal here are exploited in their jobs. A lot of them work low-paying jobs and sometimes below minimum wage. They do not even think about the possibility of saying something to their supervisors because they want to work. They don't want to lose their job, and they would lose their job if they said something. William Aracha is a writer of Journal of Intercultural Disciplines. He wrote an article in the fall of 2013 regarding immigrants that work in the shadows and work harder for less money under extreme duress. He also explains that there is some type of segregation in parent programs like Arizona's SB 1070 and Georgia's HB 87, which basically in these states, authoritative figures have the authority to go up to any person of color and ask them to show some type of identification that claims they are either a resident here or are born here, and if they do not present that identification, they can be automatically taken into custody simply because of their skin tone. They don't have to be doing anything for somebody to go up and ask them this. Thankfully, we have a lot of people that advocate for these type of people that they might think they don't have any right to anything. Jorge Ramos is a journalist, and he talks freely about what's going on in this situation. He's even confronted who at the time wasn't the President of the United States, but Donald Trump was confronted by him and questions regarding the Latino community. He continues to fight. He came here for a better future because in Mexico, journalism does not have freedom of speech like they do here. He's an extraordinary journalist who is the voice for all immigrants. He identifies himself with the rest of the immigrant population because he came from a different country, but he does consider himself to be an American as well as a Mexican. Illegal immigrants have endured hard situations. They deserve to be treated fairly. Many of them relate to the Native Americans and the African slaves, but it's more modernized. A lot of people need to be informed because there's not much information out there, just what you hear on the media. American literature is based on founding fathers that were immigrants. Many traveled to the States and left their country of origin because they wanted a better future here and they had the opportunity to do it. You may ask, why aren't the illegal immigrants doing it the right way? Well, first of all, it's not an easy process. It takes a very long time. It takes a lot of money. And people barely have money to buy food in their country. Normally it's third world countries like Mexico, any country that is below poverty level. And a lot of them don't have transportation. In conclusion, American literature is based upon immigrants. And immigrants have made this country. Whether you believe it or you choose not to accept it is different. Many of them have strived for a better life here in the States. Our country is still treating them unfairly. We have to accept all different types of humans, no matter where you came from. And American literature has shown this racism and stereotyping has always been in existence and continues to still be in existence. You need to be informed. I thank you for listening to me today, and I hope this presentation serves as an informative purpose.